Welcome to Debt to Cinema. I'm Brian Gillis.
And I'm Steven Maltmanex.
Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching the latest releases. However, it can sadly put a big dent in your wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we miss, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic,
Or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the other's opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time.
Across the sea of stars lies another world, a world almost exactly like ours. This is where he lives. He's 27 years old, single but searching. Favorite sports, windsurfing and Aikido. Favorite pastimes, cigars and sex. He has everything except fulfillment. And then one night, it happens.
Hey, good buddy, are you home?
He has a very sudden midlife crisis. He lands in Cleveland. Here, he's forced to reassess his career goals,
You went to med school?
to explore new relationships, to redefine his self-image,
I'm sorry, we don't allow pets on the premises.
to adjust to a changing lifestyle. Until he discovers just who he really is, a duck in big trouble.
That's a duck, man.
Howard the Duck, trapped in a world he never made.
Guardians of the Galaxy is coming out this week,
Yay.
Volume 2. I think everyone loved the first one, and part of that was, hey, look, there's a Howard the Duck cameo for like 5 seconds that everyone wouldn't shut the fuck up about because, hey, the very first Marvel movie ever made was Howard the Duck, and now he's in maybe the best one. I've heard if you're listening to this, do not check the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 Wikipedia page. I heard it's full of spoilers. Like,
Yeah,
basically
they
the
just
full
did
plot
screenings
is ruined.
tonight at some places, so I know people
No,
are already
no,
praising
way
it.
before that. It's already wide release in the UK.
Oh, really?
Don't. I'm pretty sure just the amount
That
of
makes
people
sense. I mean,
on the
they-
internet.
Yeah, the other territories usually get it
Yeah.
a week ahead of time in the summer.
Don't check Wikipedia for that. Don't, like, James Gunn retweeted someone. Anyway, so this is something that I want to do a long time ago. I've seen almost every Marvel movie, seen almost every comic book adaptation.
Have you seen the Roger Moore Fantastic Four Captain America
I'm not
movies?
counting that. That wasn't officially released. It went direct to video as like a mistake. Like, it wasn't even supposed to get released. Like, that was basically piracy. But I've seen like the lesser things, like Swamp Thing by Wes Craven, and well, now this. But fucking The Punisher with Dolph Lundgren, Punisher Warzone. Especially, I've seen almost every superhero movie, like both Hellboys, all 3 Blades, even like the first episode of that Blade TV show. But on paper, despite everyone saying how bad this is, and it is, on paper, it's really interesting. You got George Lucas producing something at the height of his popularity. This is 86. Star Wars just ended 2 years earlier. You got ILM doing special effects.
Yeah.
Thomas Dolby is making original songs. Matter of fact, there's a closing number, the theme song, Howard the Duck, that's co-written by George Clinton. You have an interesting creative duo, Gloria Katz and Willard Hook, who were the co-writers of American Graffiti,
Yeah.
among other things.
I think they even shot. I have not seen that in forever, but I swear that portions of this, and I skimmed through some trivia, but I think portions of this were shot in that town where they shot American Graffiti for
I could
the
see
chase
that.
in the plane.
That's possible. The plane chase, the ultralight vehicle, that was shot by Joe Johnston. The cast, you got Leia Thompson 1 year after Back to the Future, so the height of her film going career. You got Jeffrey Jones, who's not a lot of things, but is pretty funny in all of them, including Beetlejuice.
Yeah, mainly in the 80s. He's known as Ferris Bueller's Principal. He's
that side, like, laughable, almost
you remember
villain.
him in everything he's in.
It's one of those people that you see his face and you know
He's a
exactly who
character
he is.
actor.
Exactly. Tim Robbins in one of his first breakout roles. And then Ed Gale, who you might not know the name of, who portrays most of Howard here, but his career is based off of him being Chucky in the Child's Play movies.
Yeah. He was also in Spaceballs, wasn't he?
Yeah, he got Spaceballs. Apparently, like Mel Brooks said, anyone that's crazy enough to be Howard the Duck, I want in this movie.
Good.
I'm not exactly sure who he plays in Spaceballs. I have it. Maybe I have to
see it on
rewatch
IMDb, but I got to rewatch that movie. It's been way too long.
It's not Yogurt, but maybe he did some of Yogurt's body work. I don't know. So you get all these things. You're They said the very first Marvel adaptation ever, not counting serials. Like, there was the Captain America shit in the 1940s, and then after that, it took another 40 years, and they made this. You got some of the biggest filmmakers on the planet involved. This is a universal picture. And then once you start reading about its history, you understand where it went so wrong. This was supposed to be animated. The writing and directing duo, they originally wanted this to be a straight-up animated movie, and it was going to be closer to the comic book, which I've never read of, and I don't think most Marvel fans have either. It got refreshed a couple years ago, but its existence is the 70s, and it's like an existential comic that's about absurdity and surrealism, and it's basically, hey, look, I'm a duck in man's world, except that's just as crazy as anything else on this world because everything is nonsensical.
Yeah, some about that makes more sense if it were animated, although, of course, I think with George Lucas producing, he would want it to, be PG, but I could see Ralph Bakshi doing something like this.
No, that's what's crazy, though. George Lucas wanted it to be animated, too. I'm not exactly sure how it worked out, but he had some kind of, deal with Universal, and he had to do a live-action movie. I'm not sure what the other film would have been.
See, somehow I don't know. I guess not. I'm wrong now, but I would have assumed he would have been the one to push it for live-action because he's always trying to be on the forefront of technology and pushing that forward, because it's really, as easy as it is to shit on this movie, I really got to give it credit just in the technical department, because
everything technical about this movie is interesting.
It's easy to just look over it, but holy shit, this movie's really big.
It's not shoot in. The duck looks awesome.
Yeah,
the motion effects at the end, the chase sequences, like I said, the music.
It had to be a technical problem every step of the way, because just the duck, man, to get you just said it's Ed Gale in the suit, and then
it's not just Ed Gale, it's 4 other people, including some child actors.
There was a kid that they had problems with because
so he gets
it's
top
stuff to
billing.
But yeah, I mean, just to get, the syncing on the beak, it works. I mean, just to get that right, that's got to be a pain in the ass. All the movements of the guys.
No, the craziest thing about that beak sync too is on set, Ed Gale and puppeteers
There's
were
no
moving
way
the
they could
lips.
record that on set. I'm guessing it was ADR.
Yeah, the person who does the voice wasn't cast until post-production. They did all of that voice sync after the fact. Literally someone on set was yelling out of a microphone, and that's what people were bouncing their lines off of.
I'll be fair. I mean, as easy as it would be to criticize some performances here, watching this, I was not thinking, oh, that's obviously ADR. No, that is a duck and a voice coming out of a duck, and it's interacting with a human being. So to this movie's credit, I bought that.
It's really good. That's probably the only really good part about this movie, and the opening. I really, really dug the opening.
The details and all that.
10 minutes or whatever it was? Not even 10 minutes? Yeah. All of the Duck World stuff. Howard walking into his apartment. Here's a shot of a fake Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom poster. It says Indiana Stork and the Temple of Boom?
The Raiders or Breeders of the Lost Stork.
Breeders of the Lost Stork, yeah. Splash Dance instead
there
of Lap
was a
Dance.
W.C. Fields, I think, what was it, W.C. Feathers
it's May,
or something?
Yeah, it's Mae West and W.C. Fields, and it's May Nest. All the duck puns throughout the film, but especially that opening, which is 100% not in the comics. They made that up. They made the whole Duck World thing up just to sell this idea of, hey, this is a planet where there's only ducks. Instead of the human evolution from apes, it's
just
ducks.
To get ready for how bonkers this movie is. I mean, I don't know if I'd call it good, but it's just right when you get to that opening, all those overdone puns, it's like, okay, sure, I'll accept it that this is going to keep going on. But then, for me, it wasn't just the play duck thing. But, there's a Jock-itch commercial for ducks, and I was thinking, this is PG, this is, I mean, I would assume that this was aimed at kids, because how could it not be?
I don't think so. This is...
No, I mean, how do you sell this movie to adults, even though there's so much adult stuff in here? But this is gonna be very, very weird. I knew about the duck tits thing for a long time, so... that didn't really surprise me in this one. But
weird.
Just that Jock-itch commercial, for ducks, I was like, wow, movie. I don't know how to comprehend a lot of things that happen in that first 20 minutes. It's awesome in a very strange way, but I wouldn't call it good.
I think just those opening 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, until the actual title comes on screen, is seriously must-watch movie shit. That is cinematic gold. It really is. Just how metaphysical it is. George Lucas making executive producing and show running a movie that is basically kind of making fun of his own movies, just how over the top it is. And yeah, maybe it's PG, but it doesn't seem like it. It's almost like RX rated in just that opening number. And then like it goes a step further. Like maybe the movie itself isn't great, but you get that amazing gag when Howard finally goes to sleep after coming to Earth, and Leia Thompson's going through his wallet, and you're like, it's like, oh look, here's the cool money. Yeah, his Washington D.C. ID. Here's this. And here's a fucking condom.
Someone in the
I laughed
prop
out loud. It
department
was really good.
had to create a duck condom.
No, they just took a condom. It was a regular condom.
All right, but the one inconsistency I did find, just I wasn't looking at it like intently, but it's just like, okay, he's from Washington D.C., but then they pull out a $1 note. And you could tell that it's based off the actual $1 bill because it does say Washington on there. So it was like,
Washington.
No, you made a mistake.
No,
movie.
it said Washington.
No. On his license it did, but on the $1 note, you look back on it, it does say Washington in small print.
I didn't pause it.
Yeah, no,
I wasn't. It's like there's so many of those
details. It's just
details
something
in
I
this
noticed,
movie.
but it's like, yeah, okay, they do go overboard on the details, but I spotted the one flaw on there, and it was there on the $1 note. Even though it's what the United States of
It was something weird.
Some
it was
duck,
something really weird. Like I looked up a still of the ID, and it says instead of like birthday, it says hatch day, and it says like feathers white. Like
I'll give them credit; they were really, really detailed on just the
Universal
production
went
design
for it on
department.
this thing. This is like a $35 million budget.
Yeah,
In
that's
the
a lot of
80s,
money for them.
That's a lot of money. Like
you
that
can
was
get
almost
two-
$100 million.
You can get 2 aliens for that price. That's how much money that is.
I don't like this movie, but I love a lot about it. In particular, like I kind of skimmed over it a little bit. Just the chase scene isn't good, but it is technically kind of amazing that you have this person in this duck outfit on this plane and it's jumping around and doing this, like when they're going over the duck hunters and he's like bonsai and he's going, he's like, I'm gonna get, like those little jokes while this scene is happening, and the cop cars flipping over. It's like George Lucas wanted John Landis to direct this, and he said no because it reminded him too much of Blues Brothers, and totally does, but kind of in a good way, just the way it ends, where it's like, oh, you got these musical numbers, it's like outlandish and funny, you got weird outfits, and like, where did this action blockbuster shit come from? Like the final 40 minutes of this movie, if you cut that into like a 2-minute trailer, and it's like Howard the Duck might seem like it's a joke a minute, but this is some serious shit, and then you see like these car chases, you'd be like, I kind of want to see this. This looks like an interesting movie. Like
that might be how they put it together. I've not even seen the trailer yet to figure out how I'm going to put the intro together for this episode, but something I really did like too, just some of the editing here. It's right when he lands, just how things things get chaotic, and like there are so many weird gags happening. Like he's tossed onto some guy's arm. It's like, oh hey, here's your girlfriend, Frankenweenie. He's like, oh wait, and then he gets kicked out. It's like, I could spot a kid. No wait, that's my date. Something like that. But for whatever reason, I just really like how it's cut with the introduction of the band there, and just how chaotic that stuff is. Yeah, and it's like, it's not good, but there is some sort of energy to this that works, where this feels like a professionally made movie where they're really working their asses off.
It's a very professional movie. And like when you get down,
it's like it's sometimes doing things that are like so well at like keeping my interest in it, but then it's just it's just Howard the Duck at the same time. Yeah, and it's also, if it was, I got to be honest, like I was entertained in like a so bad it's good way at first, and then as it kept going, it's like after probably that plane chase, I got really bored with all the stuff at the end. I
was bored before the plane chase. Like I valued the watch. Like this is one of those how didn't it work movies. I already talked about some of the creative minds behind this. The music, this band, Leia Thompson is actually doing dance choreography, playing guitar, and singing. They didn't dub over her. Everyone in that band is actually playing the music. And they wrote all those songs for the movie. They had probably a good selling soundtrack, even though the movie didn't make any money. It made nothing. It made like $2 million globally, less than its budget. It was nominated for like 7 Razzies and won a couple, which was a record for a long time. But that same year, it was nominated for the exact same number that Prince's Under Cherry Moon was, which was his follow-up to Purple Rain, which I've never seen, which isn't supposed to be good, and the album's not supposed to be good either, but this isn't about his career, rest in peace. But like, it's not even just the duck. All the practical effects, especially in the final moments. Like, okay, yeah, we're talking about the car chases, whatever. But when you get to how crazy Jeffrey Jones' makeup transformation is, and it's actually good, like eerie good. This idea of this cosmic power building inside of him and turning him evil, and every couple of seconds in the same scene, you look at him again and you're like, wait, what the fuck's going on? And it's like messing with your head. And the only time I've ever seen something like that before is in a film that's very similar to this one, but in like the cult like classics type of the way, is Buckaroo Banzai Through the Ninth Dimension. You have a similar like interdimensional travel type thing going on. You got a villain with like crazy nails and hair and weird makeup, and then the hero in that is Peter Weller. So it's like RoboCop meets Third Rock from the Sun, and like that movie is fucking really crazy in a kind of cool way. And then this one is almost crazy, except it's also supposed to be like a huge like mainstream blockbuster with these good-looking girls and fun tunes and great action and pretty funny dialogue. But then it's like, even just describing this movie, it's Howard the Duck, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. But if you look at it and like break it down, it is a duck out of water, like a showbiz movie, cosmic comic book adaptation. Like, this does things that current Marvel movies don't even do. Especially with the, what is it, the Dark Lords of the Cosmos, or whatever the fuck it's called.
It's like it takes every single element that it can from that, but it is a mess, really. Like
it's a big mess.
It's kind of a weird combination of, like, things that I guess are part of comics, like the stuff with like the Dark Lords for that demon planet that are being transported over, but then this idea of a manager, trying to help a band like get out of their rut, and it just being a duck. Like, that's minus the duck part, that's probably a very 80s story.
It's not even just it's a showbiz story. You could switch that out for like A Star Is Born, or then it could be Showgirls, or it could be Sandy Wexler.
This is also an example of how comic book movies were bad at the time, because the reason they didn't work is that they did not understand the essence of what made a comic work or the characters work. That's why in the 80s and 90s we got so many shit movies out of that time.
I don't think that's what it was. It was more.
But is there really? I guess we can't really speak to knowing what the comic is, but I mean, would you say in any way that this, like, you can feel that the essence of what this character is and what it's supposed to be just based off this movie, like, is it anywhere close to that?
I don't know. Like I said, most Marvel fans,
but if you had to guess,
the people,
though, do you think so?
I'm not sure. Like, in the research that I did on the character and Steve Gerber's, like, just his writing and stuff like that, it seemed really interesting. Like, I wanted to give it a shot. Matter of fact, when they rebooted the line a couple years ago, one of the first story arcs that they did was actually super meta, and it was like it was a different take on this film, where they made a Howard the Duck movie, like that's part of the comic, and that it was an alien that was playing Howard in the movie, or like something just really zany and fucking bonkers. But like Howard like teamed up with Spider-Man and shit, like Man-Thing, and you wouldn't be able to do that in a movie then or now. Like, if Spider-Man like entered Guardians of the Galaxy and was in the museum, was like, hey, I don't know you, didn't we work together once or before or something? Like, I don't think it would work. My favorite thing in this movie is right at the end, which is great. Well, it's bookend. I love the opening and like a joke here or there throughout, and then I love the ending, the final confrontation, and then the musical like closing. When you get this, when Jeffrey Jones is finally, like, whatever you want to call it, baptized, and he is disemboweled, and this alien thing leaves him, and you have this amazing, it's not stop motion, but it's go motion claymation going
Phil
on.
Tippett.
Yeah, who did fucking the Tauntauns, AT-ATs. He made Ed 209 for RoboCop. He worked on Jurassic Park. He worked on Starship Troopers. He worked on just about every major like creature production in a blockbuster since the mid 80s to now. Like, he's still a consultant on certain things. He worked on Breaking Dawn, even if it doesn't quite blend in with the film just because it's so out there, but it looks fucking awesome. Like, before I even looked up who it was, it totally reminded me of Ed 209, even though this is like organic creature and that's robotic. Just the way how menacing it is, and the movement, and just how it kind of parallels like, oh, here's the good guys that are kind of small in frame, and then oh, here's this fucking huge thing. Like that actual action set piece at the end sucks. Like it's fucking boring. Like the idea
that there's the love and care put into that monster to make it look real enough. It's like
just the lights that kind of go around him when he's gaining his power.
Like the energy that's put into this movie is like there's more passion and hard work being put into this than so much crap that's being made today. Like you could say that just about almost anything in the 80s or the 90s. Like as far as I'm concerned, that's kind of the peak for action spectacle making, because really, like they could only do things practically, and they would work their asses off to make everything believable that was out there that they could. And now, not to knock on CGI, there's still so much great stuff, but it gets easier that, the hard work and the effort and, just try to, working your ass off to the point where your hands bleed, that, that art is kind of lost now. It doesn't really happen.
It's like George Lucas loved this movie so much. He was telling people at its release, like, just wait, give it 20 years. People will love it. It's been 30 years.
And there's people that love it.
I know there's people that love everything on the planet. But it's been 30 years, and some things age well, and this isn't one of them. And even if it is technically, like, incredible, it really is that in this time in Hollywood that they even made this movie with a totally unproven character or like, property, and that this was the first Marvel movie. Like, this is the reason why Marvel sold their properties, like this and also, like, the Roger Corman Fantastic Four. And we were lucky to get the Sony Spider-Man films and the Fox, like, X-Men. We were just so lucky that those things happened because Marvel fucked up so bad and just going, yeah, George Lucas, you make good movies. Have it. Please take it. Please. Like, the story is Price, I forget his first name, who was running Universal at the time, was fired over this. And Variety, like, they posted a headline, not posted, but they printed a headline, this is before the internet, that said, Duck cooks Price's goose, which apparently is like a super famous Variety headline. Like, people lost their jobs over this. Like, if it wasn't George Lucas, if you were like a regular producer, like, you'd probably not work in Hollywood again.
Yeah, like, what else has Leah Thompson been in other than Back to the Future, really?
A lot. I'll get to that in a second.
Right.
Willard Huyck, though, this was the final thing he directed. His directing career was over. Before this film, directly before this, he made another thing that flopped super hard. Like, almost everyone here, even Ed Gale to an extent, like, the creative teams and everyone, their career just died. Besides Tim Robbins, besides Leigh Thompson, besides Jeffrey Jones. Like, the fact that you got...
remind me that Tim Robbins is... I'm sorry, but, like, I know it's early in his
crazy
career,
Tim Robbins.
Oh, my God. Like, just... he's very passionately doing what he's doing here. It's just he's the worst in this movie.
Like, he's, memorialized because of Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
But most of his roles are super zany. The Player, Cadillac Man.
I mean, that Player's a fairly
Hudsucker
serious
Proxy.
Like
but it's zany. But
I don't think he's zany in it though.
He's not.
No.
But yeah, the film itself. But like all the other, I'm confused.
Like I know him for serious stuff like Jacob's Ladder and Shawshank Redemption. Hudsucker Proxy's like more one of those Coen Brothers films that's a bit zany.
A film with Martin Lawrence called Nothing to Lose. That's crazy. But yeah, Leah Thompson. No, she's not just known for Back to the Future. Matter of fact, and this was my favorite factoid about this film. John Hughes and Howard Dutch really wanted her. I'm assuming more John Hughes really wanted her to be in Some Kind of Wonderful, which is a film I'm pretty confident you haven't seen.
Nope. Seriously, it's sad actually how little John Hughes 80s movies I've seen.
It's not, John Hughes, but not really, in the same way that Pretty in Pink is. Howard Dutch was like one of his most trusted collaborators. He directed 3 or 4 of his screenplays. Pretty in Pink, Some Kind of Wonderful, The Great Outdoors. So John Hughes is mostly known for Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 16 Candles.
Weird Science.
Weird Science kind of, but The Breakfast Club, okay?
Yeah.
So Leah Thompson at the top of her game, you gotta remember, like, her career began before Back to the Future. She's in Red Dawn. She's in, I was looking it up last night. Like, she's in a pretty incredible list of films at the beginning of her career. It's just most people kind of forget about her because she's in Back to the Future trilogy. She's in Jaws 3D, All the Right Moves with Tom Cruise, Red Dawn, like I said, something called Going Undercover, which sounds kind of interesting, Back to the Future, and then a year after Back to the Future made this. Her career was in such, like, spiral. She was so concerned about like just being fucked over and never working again in Hollywood, which happens
After
for
this.
people. Yeah, after this, which
Yeah.
happens a lot when you're in a big flop, that she said yes to John Hughes. She finally made Some Kind of Wonderful. And this is how interesting that film is. Not only is it one of 3 films that I used as examples in my thesis paper, The Women of Shermer, Illinois, Feminism in John Hughes Films. So that paper wouldn't exist. But even better than that, after she filmed Some Kind of Wonderful, she married the director Howard Dutch. So if Howard the Duck didn't exist, she wouldn't have been in the movie that she met her husband filming, and then she wouldn't have made several films with him. She was in
would
something.
have met a Howard D, I think is what you're saying.
But I've seen her in other things. So I'm pretty sure she does not regret this movie. She said like in interviews that she still has the guitar from this film. She plays it. Like I think the only thing she regrets is letting her fucking tease her hair the way it is in this film because that took like 2 hours and she wished she wore a wig. But she was in Casual Sex, which I've seen, which is not good. It's like a weird 80s sex comedy with her and Victoria Jackson, a name that no one knows anymore. She's in a Tales from the Crypt episode, which I'm pretty sure her husband directed. She's in a couple of westerns. She's in something called Article 99 that I was looking up last night that has like a really great cast, also by Howard Dutch. She's the bad guy in the Beverly Hillbillies movie adaptation, which I kind of forgot existed. She's also in Dennis the Menace.
That's a thing? Whoa.
And Little Rascals. She's the teacher in that. So she was in a series of adaptations in the mid-90s, and then her career kind of ended after that. She got a
Now
little
she's
too
mostly
old.
got TV work.
Now she does TV stuff. Like she's probably just doing nothing, like
Just
voice
working
acting.
steady.
I don't know. Like I mean, I would imagine if Back to the Future gets a reboot or a sequel or whatever, that she would be involved in some way. Or all of them.
That should never happen, ever. We're all agreed on that, right?
It's gonna happen. But yeah, no,
not while Zemeckis is alive.
I'm
Come on.
happy.
That movie's so perfect that it can still play well in theaters today. Like, it'd be stupid to remake that.
Not a remake, but a continuation. Like
Yeah.
I still see it happen. All you gotta do is figure it out. If Indiana Jones 5 is happening when Harrison Ford is 77 years old, anything's possible. But yeah, I love this film just for the fact that Some Kind of Wonderful exists, because it wouldn't exist the way it does without her. And it's not my favorite John Hughes movie. I've only seen it twice, but it is the most different from the rest of his filmography. Like it follows, it's Pretty in Pink to a T, except you've seen that, right?
No.
Pretty in Pink is Molly Ringwald. She's a poor girl who's into weird shit, and she somehow starts dating a rich guy, and it's all about school politics. And you can't. It's all about Reaganomics. You can't date him because he has money. You can't date her because she doesn't have money.
It's like a Romeo and Juliet thing.
More so like a Cinderella thing. But yeah, so Some Kind of Wonderful is a flip of the coin on Pretty in Pink. Instead, it's about like a middle class dude who decides that he's going to cash in his life savings that's meant for college just so he can impress a girl at school that he really likes. But they're like the same fucking movie. They really are, like very similar, except there's a lot of heart in Some Kind of Wonderful, and it's set in LA, which is really weird because no John Hughes film is besides that one. Or maybe it's not set in LA, but it's totally filmed here. Anyway, that's not related. So yeah,
Howard the Duck.
thank you, George Lucas, for helping make this movie with the people that are in it, because it really is. It's not a so bad it's good. That would be. It's not bad enough for that. This is just a shitty movie that's way too long.
It's really just a not good script that has a lot of things going on, and I mean, like it's definitely, there's stuff out there in this that's very weird, but kind of enjoyable to watch. But you know what, it does get pretty boring for me in the end. But like it's just kind of interesting just to see it for the fact that it exists. But yeah, like I've seen so many worse movies within the past year that are just like, I don't even really get that angry with movies. What was the last movie that really pissed me off? I think it was The Do-Over. Like, it's really rare for something to really piss me off and think of as an abomination, and this is definitely not that.
This has some good moments. Like, this is the perfect example of a movie where you could take a 2-minute segment, put it on YouTube, and send it to someone, and they would really like it.
Yeah,
and they would want to see the movie. Like, there's a lot of those.
Really like the John Barry score here a lot, for specifically the love theme.
Yeah, the love theme's good. I like
yeah,
Howard's theme. Just Howard's theme when he's on the chase and he's like getting into the groove of things. He has that fucking line. He's like, "If God wanted us to fly, He wouldn't have taken our wings away," which like out of context doesn't make sense, but whatever. Like any of those kind of moments where like Tim Robbins just being this like sidekick, which is when you think of him, it's not something you picture.
No.
Like, how? Especially
really
he's
early in
tall.
his
He's
career,
6'4". Howard the Duck is 3'1". Something literally twice his height is his
Tim
dumb
Robbins is
sidekick.
slouching a lot and just twitching a lot, and
It's just his character. It's a really weird character.
Yeah.
But like in the way that this film was made, it kind of makes me go, yeah, I wonder if this is if they actually had a comic book that was the exact story of this. Like, oh, would that be good? Or better yet, if this was a TV show, I wonder what that would be like. Or even better, I've read that the novelization of this movie is actually really good. Like, incredibly good. Like, it's not like, oh, it's so bad it's good, or it's just literally a good book.
how does that work?
I don't know. I'm curious because I like the characters here.
Novelizations tend to be the same thing scene for scene. So was it just it being rewritten, or
I don't know, but I like the characters here. I like the setup. I like the world. It's just it's not believable, which makes sense because hey, it's a
you never
comic book
buy
adaptation
into this reality,
but
at all,
it's
really.
like even the people that are totally bewildered by this duck walking around. Is
That's
that really
a duck, man?
Is that really
That's
how
a
you would
duck.
respond to that?
Well,
like,
it's weird. Like, at first he's being carried in a trash bag because they're worried that he's going to freak out. But then he's just walking around freely, getting a fucking job, too.
Yeah, we're
at a
going
sauna.
just the way that whole section works, where the movie
just
starts
the
off
weird
really
thing with
strong.
unemployment.
Yeah,
and,
the way
what was it like? Oh, you look like a slacker. It's like, well, I got to shop this way at the kids section at Goodwill.
Yeah.
Like, there's no sense of reality here. It's
the
just,
way that
it's
he
just kind of having fun.
Not just the way he lands that job, or the fact that he basically works in a fuck motel, or how he lands back in Beverly's world, his quack foo thing, and like beating up the manager, become the manager, his fashion sense, which is actually something that I really like here, the suspenders and the clothes. Like, probably the weirdest thing about this movie is right before it was made, Howard the Duck was like hit basically by a copyright infringement by Disney, and they said Howard the Duck is too reminiscent of Donald Duck.
What?
And so Marvel went, okay, yeah, we'll put some pants on him then, so he doesn't look like him. And so they gave him pants. In this movie, he has pants. 20 years after this movie comes out, Marvel is owned by Disney, and then they put Howard the Duck in one of their movies when Donald Duck hasn't been in one of their movies since the 60s, maybe? 70s,
I'm
perhaps?
Not sure. Like a straight-to-video Disney movie?
Just period at all, in any capacity.
Is it really? Really?
We've had this conversation before. Donald Duck, Goofy. Well, not Goofy, because he was in
Extremely
two
Goofy
Goofy.
movie,
Yeah,
but-
Goofy was an Extreme Goofy movie and Goofy movie.
It's like, I'm trying to think back. There had to have been something with Donald. Like, I
No.
swear there was a CGI version of it. at some
Donald got
point.
TV show stuff. He got DuckTales and Fantasia 2000 was probably the last time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't shit on this movie like everyone else has. It's,
don't hate
it's
it.
bad. Like it's a
You're
very
gonna remember the bad stuff, and you're gonna laugh at it, man. I mean, every time that Howard got into a fight in this, I was smiling with glee, just waiting to see how this would all go together. I mean, when he's fighting with the manager, there, just going like, "Is this gonna be easy, or is this gonna be trouble?" Trying to do his John Wayne voice, and it's a fucking duck.
like I rolled
saying
my
this,
eyes
man.
a lot, but I also laughed
You can't
a good
help
amount.
but like smile a little bit at the fact that this is happening, But yeah,
I
like
laughed.
there
I
are genuinely funny moments here too.
the whole wallet gag, the opening in Duck World, Tim Robbins, not the first time you meet him, but like the pizza shit. When Tim Robbins is like, "Oh, I brought pizza," and Howard's
I'm gonna
like,
watch you take your clothes off.
he's like, "What's pizza?" And he's like, it's gooey cheese, like it doesn't matter or whatever. I was like, "What? Huh?" The egg gag, for instance, the fried eggs thing. Just Jeffrey Jones, period. Like his transformation.
Just that diner scene, actually, in general, is kind of fun.
It's a Cajun sushi place.
What the? I mean, that's how seriously you should take this movie.
Like it's so just a character takes a fucking tongue out of his mouth that looks like a long ass tentacle, goes into a cigarette lighter to gain energy, and then 5 minutes after that goes to a nuclear power plant to absorb the power.
I'm still just amazed by that explanation alone, that there is a planet filled with demons. that were cast out.
The way Howard's head goes erect in that
Oh my
almost
God.
sex scene, like,
Wow.
was so cool.
Someone designed that suit specifically to do that. Had to pull like on some string or something or hit a button to get it to do that. That's insane.
Like, that wasn't the first time I've seen Leia Thompson in revealing underwear. She obviously
Back to
does
the
that
Future.
in Back to the Future in a certain way, but in maybe not the best part of Some Kind of Wonderful, but you see her tits in that. And like the craziest idea, and like
I wanna
this is
see it
in
now.
that paper I wrote, is some dude directed a girl, used the male gaze for this scene, and then married her shortly thereafter. And as far as I'm aware, they're still married. It's one of those Hollywood marriages that stood the test of time. And it's like, you fell in love with this girl when you literally forced her to get naked on screen. Or
I
almost
want
naked.
to see it now.
It's a good movie. Like, it's a good double feature with Pretty in Pink. I don't think you would like Pretty in Pink, but Some Kind of Wonderful is really good. I can't recommend this one. This isn't even a dime a dozen. This is like, you owe it to yourself to watch this if you claim to be a Marvel fan, or if you watch comic movies like I do. If you have a fascination with Guardians of the Galaxy, or you laughed at the cameo. Like, I was aware of who Howard the Duck was. Like, oh, it's that duck that smokes a cigar that was the basis of this really bad George Lucas movie that no one ever talks about besides how bad it is. Like, I've gone to comic book shops and talked to the clerks about this movie, and they told me not to watch it. When your profession is to sell products to people, and you're telling me not to watch an adaptation of it, and it's one of the first adaptations of its kind, you know it's got to be bad. And I knew that like months ago, and yet I still had to see it. And I don't regret watching it. Like, a movie has to be really, really, really special, a special kind of turd for me to go, why? And I can't remember the last time I had one of those moments at all. I really can't.
I think it speaks more also to the current state of cinema that it's sad that it's easier to make something far worse than this today, and it comes out. If this was considered one of the worst movies of its time, which, you know, thinking back, yeah, I can totally see that.
The studio system was completely different back then.
I could see how this could piss people off, but you know, now, no, it's not that bad. It's not good. I mean, it's definitely, it's one of those movies where it's kind of fun to make fun of it, and it's sort of special for that. Like, when I get in conversations with people now that want to shit on this movie, then, you know, I might have something to contribute of like, oh yeah, but what about this part? But it's like, yeah, I'm not going to try to dissuade this movie from anybody and be like, you know, like, if you're interested in seeing it, you know, you should, just to really understand it. And there's people that actually like this movie. I mean, you know, even if a movie's really, really bad, I would never tell anybody to actively avoid it, because for all I know, they might actually enjoy it or see something that I don't, or, you know, they might have something like with you in Biodome. Like, I don't think it's a good movie. I seriously think you make a good case for why you enjoy it, and I think that that's absolutely worth listening to in that episode.
A lot of people like Biodome. It's not
You're
like
the first person to ever do that, to tell me that.
I've met several people in my life that like Biodome. I think the problem is when you talk to people, especially in filmic circles, it's kind of like this movie. There's certain films that you've been told throughout your life, like, don't watch that, don't
when
see
you're
it,
told
stay
that,
away.
then you're just, you know that you're going to be a little bit more kinder to it, because you're like, I don't know how, it's just insane how people get passionate about how much they hate something. And I swear I rarely do it, even though there are, like, The Do-Over really pissed me off when I watched it.
See, I didn't like that movie. I really hated certain moments, but there was a ton of redeeming factors for me. One, seeing David Spade in a starring role for the first time in like
he deserved
8
better,
years.
man.
Maybe he deserved better, but he was also in Joe Dirt 2 the year before, and that was, I turned that off. That was so bad. So, like, in comparison, yeah, it was a step up. The closing, getting to hear a Madonna song in an Adam Sandler movie was cool.
I don't
like,
even remember that.
it was right at the end when they're getting on the moped and like going down the stairs or whatever, and they play it's a song in 13 Going on 30.
I wouldn't know.
I'm waiting for a month like this. It's so brand new. I feel it in my kiss. I'm crazy for you. There you go. That's a good song. That's a good song. Like, I'm a sucker for certain music, and Howard the Duck does it. Like Biodome, it's the music. Freddie Got Finger, I love the soundtrack in that. I know you haven't seen it yet, but 20th Century Women, great music. If you can,
We'll get to that hopefully soon.
If you can make a movie and you can put some music of the time period, let alone make music from the time period like this film does, and it just sells this world in a certain way. Like, I was actually reminded in a certain kind of vein of Gem and the Holograms in this movie. Both adaptations of like comic books or cartoons that are music centered, that have like a girl band making music, and then there's weird like hijinks and action set pieces to go along with that. Less so in the John Chu adaptation, but in the cartoon, which was popular at the time of this movie's release, that's what you got. And it's like, I could see why they thought that this was interesting, or like why this was filmable, because just on paper you have an all-girl like rock band. By today's standards, like that's still ahead of the curve. Like, outside of 2 years ago's Gem and the Holograms, I can't really think of a movie that has an all-girl band that's at least from America. Like, We Are the Best a couple years ago did it, and there's actually like a real great scene in that movie where they're like, oh, now we have this girl band from here, and they're like, we're not a girl band.
I really want to say that there is one, at least within this decade, that
there's some biopics. Yeah, there's
I mean,
The
like,
Runaways.
as far as a fictional movie that might be a comedy or something, but there's really nothing memorable enough that I can think of.
No, the only one I can think of from this country is the Runaways biopic. I think it was called The Runaways. With, who was that? Dakota Fanning
and Kirsten Stewart.
Yeah, Kirsten
Stewart. That was
Stewart.
2009 though, so not really this decade.
Almost this decade. Outside of that one, I can't think of any. Gem and the Hologram. Seriously, like that's it. Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on the titular Dollar Review Show, a spoiler-free critique of new releases or anything we've discovered on our own, whether that be TV, music, etc.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
And we're also on Google Play Music, iTunes, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, just about anywhere on the internet with hours of content available to you for free. But for those of you that feel that the show is worth your dollar, you can send us a donation at patreon.com/dollarreviews. Contributions not only earn our undying love, but they also make it possible for us to improve our recording equipment and to give you the highest quality episodes possible. But more importantly, they'd be helping us acquire the content to review. You know, trips to the multiplex are expensive, and the more donations we receive, the more films we can review for your listening pleasure.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Debt to Cinema request, or if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films that I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.